excited to have the honor, an extreme honor, to moderate this very esteemed panel. You know, Houston stands as one of the globally recognized cities in the United States. And at the heart of the international network are women who represent many nations here. And today's program, as mentioned, brings together the Subcommittee of Women Diplomats of the Consular Corps of Houston for a special luncheon and our dialogue this afternoon. These ladies are dedicated to fostering international collaboration, advancing women's leadership in democracy, and strengthening the connections between Houston communities and the world. Together, they will share how women are shaping the future of global engagement through their work in business and public diplomacy. Now, I know Itzi introduced each one, but I'm going to spend a little bit more time because they're such an accomplished panel. So to my direct right, we have Gabrielle Hall. She is Australia's Consul General and Trade and Investment Commissioner to Houston, Texas, covering Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Louisiana, focusing on the sectors of energy, health, and space. She brings extensive international experience, having served in Austrade's investment division as acting trade commissioner in Santiago, Chile, and on assignments in Mexico and Colombia. She's also supported Australian exporters through Austrade's trade division and previously worked with the governments of Uruguay and Chile in Australia. Next in the middle, we have Consul General Olivia Link-Raviv. She's been here a little bit longer than maybe Gabrielle has. She leads the Consulate General of Israel to the Southwest, bringing over 2 decades of diplomatic experience. She served in senior positions across Israel's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, including Deputy Ambassador to Venezuela, Consular for Public Diplomacy in Italy, and Director of the Pacific Department. Her work also encompasses UN policy, legal affairs, and diplomatic training, advancing Israel's engagement in international cooperation and governance. A former mediator and practicing attorney, and I did not know that. That's really interesting. She holds a law degree and master's in conflict resolution from Hebrew University of Jerusalem and is a member of the Israeli Bar Association. Lastly, we have Anna Hammarlund Blixt. She is the Consul General of Sweden here in Houston, a seasoned career diplomat specializing in international security and European affairs. She's held senior positions at Sweden's Ministry for Foreign Affairs, including leadership roles in disarmament, non-proliferation, and sanction policies, and served as Swedish missions in Washington, D.C., Ankara, Brussels, and NATO. A graduate of Uppsala University and the University of Calgary with executive training from the Swedish Defense University and Harvard Kennedy School, she brings deep expertise in transatlantic relations and global security. We are truly honored to have such amazing, accomplished women. Please join me in welcoming them again. So to begin, each one of you bring and represent a country with a unique perspective on diplomacy, on international collaboration, trade, and investment. I'm going to ask each one of you this question, but maybe we'll start with you, Gabrielle. From your experience, what do you see as the most important way women diplomats are shaping the future of global engagement in today's world?
Am I on?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much, firstly, for the opportunity to be here to the World Affairs Council. What a big question.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, diplomacy is all about relationships. At the end of the day, it's about how you connect with people, how you build relationships, and then how you connect those people to other people so that those new relationships formed are generative and value-adding, and in the interests, I guess, for Australia, in the interests of Australia, that you do that, and our relationship with the USA, but globally. So I think, what are women bringing to the picture? I think women are naturally really strong relationship builders, because we tend to lead with vulnerability. And the quickest way to break down a wall with someone is to reveal something of yourself that makes them want to connect with you. And so for me, I'm here. I've got a almost 4-year-old son. He is one of my best diplomatic tools. Because automatically any sort of air of anything in terms of rank or title automatically comes crashing down to the floor when you're being yelled at by your 4-year-old because you got the wrong flavor of ice cream or you said the wrong word in the book or whatever it was. So I think vulnerability, really leveling with people, building trust and relationships is the core tool, and using my motherhood and my womanhood to be able to do that, I think, really authentically is for me is what we bring.
So the question again, what do you see as the most important way women diplomats are shaping the future of global engagement in today's world?
Yeah, so I really connect to what Gabrielle said. And the first thing I wrote down is no ego. So everybody has an ego, women included, but maybe it runs us a bit less than our beloved men. So I think a basic notion of humility and less ego, letting the ego aside can really help. I think women tend to have, we're generalizing, of course, but I think women tend to have a can-do attitude because we just do. that's our life and experience. And I think we get to every new mission with a can-do attitude, and that can be very, very helpful. I think women are good in supporting each other, creating a network, and that's very, very valuable. Not to say men don't have it, but I think women are good at it. And I think if we're talking about international affairs, women are great negotiators. And you've talked about motherhood. What is being a mother if not constantly negotiating from them? Well, being a parent, to be honest, let's not forget our partners, but being a parent, being a mother is about negotiating with your kids day in, day out. So these are some of the things I was thinking of.
Well, first of all, I also want to add my thanks to the organizers for offering me the opportunity to be on this very distinguished panel. And as I was listening to all our experiences, I'm thinking maybe we should open up a consulting firm. How about that? That could be fun, and I think it could be good business. No, but I echo. I mean, I support everything that was just said. I think that women are natural multitaskers. We're good at doing a lot of things at the same time. I'm not saying men aren't, but if I'm comparing in my own household, I do have some empirical data behind my statement. No, but I think we're good at multitasking. I've been working in security and defense almost all my career, and in Sweden still, it's a pretty much male-dominated world. And I think as a woman, especially when you assume leadership roles, you're kind of mindful of the way you come across and the way that you act and interact with colleagues and peers. So I think, we pay a lot of attention to what we do and what we say. And I think that kind of shapes the way that we act. I've had to think about it for basically every day throughout my career. So it's not something that you do automatically. I also have children, so I completely agree with being a mother is not just about being a multitasker, project manager, banker, driver, but also it's a constant negotiation. It starts from getting them out of bed to getting them into bed. So I think that probably contributes too.
So, Anna, let's stick with you. You came to Texas only a few months ago. Welcome. Have you got the y'all in there yet? Okay, great. Good. So if you had to describe Sweden's role in global diplomacy in one sentence for a Texan audience, what would it be?
That's a very tough question. In one sentence,
2, 5.
I'd say Sweden is a small country in Northern Europe, but we have a global outlook. We're dependent on foreign trade, so we need to be where the economic opportunities are. We're the second most innovative country in the world. The Swiss beat us to it, but since everyone confuses Sweden and Switzerland, we don't necessarily care. So we are a small country in Northern Europe, but we have a global outlook. And that's why we're here in Texas, because there's so many opportunities for trade and investment and innovation, collaboration with a range of different actors throughout the state. That was more than one sentence, but I spoke quickly. So,
And such an interesting question. May I ask Livia and maybe Gabrielle after?
Yeah, so you went longer. I'll go shorter. I have 2 words. If you look at Israel, the words that come to mind is born global. Okay, especially if we're talking about. So I lied. It's not 2 words. Okay. I'm going to go longer, but never trust a diplomat. But especially the economy in Israel, and just think about it for a minute. A very small country, which means the domestic market doesn't exist or is really insignificant. Tough neighborhood, so the regional market is challenging. And so you have to, from day one, if you're creating a company, if you have an idea, if you're 2 students in a garage writing computer programming or whatever, you need from day one to start thinking global. And those 2 students in their parents' garage are emailing each other in English. Why is that? Because they know, they take into account that in a year, in 2 years, in a decade, they would have to either sell to other states or have investors from other states, etc. So the global component is very strong. Not a lot of people speak Hebrew in the world. Hence, you have to speak, English and other languages, and this is a part of the global approach we have.
Gabrielle?
So Australia is the Texas of the Southern Hemisphere. We have barbecue. We have cowboys. We have 3 kinds of football. And we are 11.5 times bigger than Texas geographically, and Texas loves big things. Therefore, Texas and Australia belong together.
So we're going to take the questions a little more deeper now. But thank you for that. That was really fun. We'll go back to you, Anna. With your experience in NATO and European affairs, how do you approach diplomacy in a city like Houston, which is both an international business hub and culturally diverse?
I mean, my job here as the Consul General in Houston, first of all, I have to say I've been here 10 weeks, I think. And although I'm building on amazing work done by our honorary consuls, one of them is here, Annika Bergman. Yeah. My task is to establish the consulate with everything that entails, from office furniture, thank you IKEA, bit of free promotion, phone lines, local staff, in addition to making connections, establishing, networks, getting Sweden across in Texas and Texas in Sweden. That's equally important. But, everything I do as a diplomat, it comes back to Swedish interests. And what are the Swedish interests? Well, it is to continue to be a prosperous, safe country. And anything we can do to contribute to that overarching goal would be my mandate. And the experience that I have in security and defense fits well with the priorities that we have here for trade and investment promotion, not least space and defense innovation, but also, I mean, life science, med tech, and energy issues. So the fact that I don't have a long career working in trade and economic affairs, I mean, someone thought that it was a good idea to send me here with the background that I have in order to be, you know, a good match for Texas. And I'm really happy to be here.
Well, that was my next question. What are your key priorities for Sweden's office here? Maybe I ask the same question to Olivia. Your key priorities now might be different than what they were when you first arrived. Have they changed? And if so, what are they?
I mean, we have very basic tasks. I think to some extent, every diplomat is doing basically two things. We are all matchmakers, okay? It's all about finding the compatible match between sectors or people or organizations or governments in our country and the area we serve in. That's one thing. And the other thing, we're all storytellers. You know, we're here to tell our story, and I'm referring to more softer, you know, side of diplomacy, public diplomacy. And in that, one of our priorities at the consulate is community outreach. It's great that I'm here, but a lot of the things the consulate does, to be honest, let's be honest, can be done nowadays via Zooms, via webinars, via, you know, phone calls, etc., etc. Why is it special? What is our added value being on ground? There has to be one. And I think that thing is relationship building, as was mentioned, and community outreach. Get to know the people. We're here because, you know, to get to know the people. Otherwise, the mail can be sent from anywhere in the world. So community outreach is definitely one of our biggest priorities. Just to mention one, the Hispanic community, we invest a lot of thought and energy and activities around it. It's funny to me that a lot of people refer to it as a minority, whereas in Texas, every second child being born is of Hispanic heritage. So just as a thought, how do we connect to the Hispanic community? How do we tell our story? And how do we listen to theirs? And other communities as well, the African American community, the Asian community, et cetera, et cetera. And I will also say there's a uniqueness for every Israeli diplomat, and this is the fact that we're not only representing our country, but also the Jewish people. And we're very fortunate to have here a large, active Zionist Jewish community that does so much and is definitely a huge partner of ours in everything we do.
And if you've been around Houston a little bit, you've seen Livia do those community engagements and community outreach. Thank you for all you do for the World Affairs Council too. Thank you. And Gabrielle, what would be your key priorities here?
So 3 priorities. One is our consular services and, you know, looking after our Australians, you know, overseas is core. The second is around public diplomacy and political engagement. So the soft stuff that gets sort of the attention of Texas in a way that's less explicit. So we just got a Dallas Cowboys cheerleader from Australia who's about to be famous on Netflix next year. So she's my new best friend because she will be an important diplomatic tool. Right? Yeah. We've got the Socceroos, our national football team are here tomorrow night playing. They're going to be part of FIFA. FIFA is going to be a big entry point to be able to do some of the commercial engagement we want to do. And we did talk, I'll mention it now, we talked the other day about, not in Texas, but one of the best tools we have on the public diplomacy for Australia. Who watches Dancing with the Stars? Yeah, so Bob Irwin, who is our brand ambassador for tourism in Australia, is doing really well on the dancing show and capturing hearts and minds. So everyone's talking. So his name is Bob Irwin. Bob and Whitney.
Yeah.
Vote Bob and Whitney. And so why do I say this? I say this as having these pop culture references is a really nice way to get a conversation started, to then channel that through to other core objectives and messages, which is pillar 3, trade and investment. So the love language of Texas is business and dollars. And my background is on the commercial side of diplomacy. And so therefore, understanding the Aussie businesses here, the business opportunities, making the matches, trying to get deals done is a really important part of the work. But then also delivering on big announcements like the critical minerals deal that the President and our Prime Minister just announced 2 weeks ago has implications for my work here in Texas. And how can I support that in terms of those sorts of things as well? Once you pull that picture together, you do what Olivia said and you tell the story. And we're trying to tell the story here in a way that resonates with the local market about why Australia is important globally, why it's important to the USA, why it's important to Texas, the jobs we're creating, the investment we're making, and the more that we're able to connect and uncover all of these points of reference and stories, whether they're commercial, sort of softer, cultural or otherwise, just adds to the picture of what we're doing here. So they're my kind of 3 core things.
Excellent. So jumping back to Anna, Sweden has historically maintained a policy of military non-alignment, if you will, but recent geopolitical developments have shifted just a little bit this stance. Could you explain why Sweden chose to join NATO and when the extension, just explain about how and why they chose to join?
So there's a very clear-cut answer as to why Sweden abandoned 200 years of militarily non-alignment and neutrality, and it's Russia. It's Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine and its aggression in Europe that led to Sweden joining NATO. For us, it had been a discussion for quite a few years on how to collaborate more closely with the alliance. But really, after the full-scale invasion in 2022, the political parties in parliament came together very quickly and decided that it was time for Sweden to enter a new phase in our international relations and in our national security and defense, because we could no longer guarantee our own safety and security. We needed to join NATO. So it happened very quickly, and it's been a very interesting, transformative experience. I worked very closely with it because I was the nuclear policy director. And of course, Sweden then joined an alliance which has nuclear weapons. But there was broad political support and majority for this major shift in our policies. Now we're part of an alliance, so we are NATO. And for a country that's been on its own, that has been at peace for so many years, this is a big change for us, but a very necessary one.
What does the citizenry think of this involvement in NATO?
The support is overwhelming. And it's because, we see and feel every day in Sweden and in our part of Europe, the war that is happening in Ukraine. And for us, it's not a conflict far away. It's not something that's happening to anyone else. What happens in Ukraine affects us. And the way to support Ukraine is to do it in every way that we can. So for the Swedish government, our top 5 priorities in security and defense and development cooperation and in trade is Ukraine, because what Russia is doing in Ukraine is infecting our security. So it's existential for us. And I think I wrote down the number, but I can't find it. Also, I think I have my glasses on my head. But we are investing heavily in Ukraine because what happens in Ukraine doesn't necessarily stay there. And I'm very, every week, almost every day, I see new announcements of collaborative approaches with Ukraine, with, Sweden exporting more Ukrainian goods being found in Swedish stores. So this is really, if you come to Sweden, you're gonna notice and you're gonna feel the way that the war is really present there.
And related to that, Sweden is known, as you mentioned, for its strong commitment to human rights, sustainability, multilateral cooperation. How do you see Swedish diplomacy advancing these goals in global forums?
See, I wish you could come up with like an easy question. These all require like lectures, but I'll try and be brief. I mean, we even though we are a member of NATO now, and that has a huge impact on our security and defense, we will continue to do what we have always done. We will continue to be a very strong champion for international law, because as a smaller country, that's the assurance that we have. Now we have also NATO, but for us, the rules-based international order is the most effective assurance that we have. So we will continue to do whatever we can to uphold it and to stand by the norms and the rules and the values enshrined in the United Nations Charter and in other texts. Human rights, equality, those are things that the Swedish governments, irrespective of color or party, have always been champions of. And we work, of course, very closely with our other member states in the European Union. But for Sweden, we're a consensus-based country. So even if political alliances shift, even if you might have different governments in power, the political trajectory, it doesn't change very much. It might be on the margins, but there is a political consensus in my country on where Sweden is going, both nationally, but also on the international stage. So even if we change government, you will still see, these themes of international law, human rights, gender equality being present in basically every government's political platform.
Great, thank you. Olivia, let's turn to you in Israel. I know many of the audience has asked me, but I want to ask you now, as the ongoing situation continues to shape the lives for so many Israeli families, all Israeli families, what is life like today for the citizen of Israel?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I think all of us, or the average American, this room is not average Americans. You are very knowledgeable people with a very high interest in global affairs. That's a part of the reason you are here today. But I think for the average American, there's a lot of lack of knowledge and understanding about what's going on. Maybe there's a war going there. It's an ugly thing, because all wars are ugly things, and that's about it. But people don't know really how does day-to-day life look like. So the past 2 years, and I think most of you understand it, were maybe one of the toughest 2 years in our nation's life. It's a very short life, but even in our nation, in our Jewish nation life, which is a very long history, and I can say that me, as an Israeli diplomat, as an Israeli citizen, as a Jewish person, as a woman, as a mother, these have been, with no doubt, the hardest 2 years for me as well. Basically, on October 7th, 2023, life turned out upside down. The world has changed for us, and it has changed forever. There are some very encouraging, positive things that are happening, and I'll get to that in a minute. But I think, I don't want to be dramatic, but Israeli society would never be the same. It's a trauma. I want to say post-trauma. I'm not sure we're post. We're pretty much, hopefully, on the last, part of it, so we can start the healing process, processing what has happened, and think about the post stage of it. Day-to-day life is normal. If you go to Tel Aviv right now, everybody's working. Going to cafes, great restaurants, the beach, weather is lovely right now. So day-to-day life seems normal, but it is a bit deceiving. A lot of the population, especially men, but women as well, are drafted. Now we have a ceasefire, so a lot of them are back home. But for 2 long years, households were empty of one parent. Just think about what it means, not only for the family, for the household, but for the business sector as well. So the person that was drafted is not productive in his business. If he's a business owner, his business probably is bankrupt. If he's an employee, his boss is having a hard time. If he's even working, maybe he's drafted too. So that's a big question. His spouse at home is having to confront day-to-day tasks and raising the children by herself, et cetera, et cetera. So it's really a house of cards that affects ripple effect that affects all society, and of course the psychological effect of such an attack and an ongoing war. So life, if we look at it superficially, life looks, everything is as usual and normal. But if you dig deep enough, you understand that, I wouldn't want that to be our normal, right? Nobody should have this kind of normal in his life. Good news is, first of all of our live hostages are back home. That's a huge, huge achievement. And we worked very closely with the American administration to get that. And also the ceasefire. So right now, we're working very hard on the second phase of the ceasefire. The aim is to dismantle Hamas and disarm Gaza completely. We will get to a situation where every citizen in Israel is safe. As simple as that, nothing more. Just being able to live his life in a safe way. I think I'll stop here.
Thank you. And because I know that there continues to be ongoing challenges in a number of ways in that region, you probably are more aware of this than maybe superficially we are, but what role is there, if any, or that you have seen for global partners to play a piece in supporting peace and security?
Yeah, I think global alliances are key and very important. In some instances, under some circumstances, the international arena would not be favorable towards Israel. We still believe we have a very complex relationship with the United Nations, a love-hate situation. But the fact is, it is the only UN we have. As you know, the UN is an example of an international organization, maybe the international organization. So I worked for many years on UN affairs. It is not a perfect system, to say the very least, not at all. We have a lot of criticism about how they treat Israel, the double standard, but again, that's a different talk. But the point is, it is the only UN we have, and we respect it, and we respect international law, because we have to have rules for the game. We have to have it, and we have to respect it. So definitely we believe in international fora that can be useful. And international alliances, for sure. In the end of the day, it's all about mutual interests. If we're battling terrorism, we all know terror is never a regional, a local phenomena. Never, ever. It's not the way it works. Terrorism is a global problem, and it just makes sense to work together to fight it.
Absolutely. Let's move to you, Gabrielle. The path to diplomacy is oftentimes very straightforward. You know, you want to diplomatic service, you go a particular path, often shaped by our experiences, our mentors, kind of our path in our career. What took you into this career in diplomacy?
So for me, I didn't realize I was a diplomat until I got here. And I say that very genuinely because it was never an intention to be a diplomat or build a career in diplomacy. I was talking with Ronan before about the work that the council does, educating students on this as a job in the future. I had no read of it in high school, at university. I didn't know it was a thing. I was going to be a physiotherapist that worked with professional sports teams and traveled around the world, yes, but to support sporting teams. That was what my dad did. He was a coach. I wanted to follow in his footsteps. The cadavers in the science labs were a little too much for me. So I dropped out of physiotherapy and ended up choosing to study something where I had a bit of a talent, which was languages, and language classes at uni were great. You go in, it's small, you just talk, and then it was fantastic. Anyway, so I became exactly no science labs and so through that I found myself engaged at university, and I studied Spanish. Okay, we're in Texas. I get it. Everyone speaks Spanish. In Australia, it's quite rare. It's not a normal skill set. Normally, you're Japanese or Mandarin or Bahasa, but not Spanish. So I became as good as I could, not fluent native, but fluent learned Spanish speaker by going to Chile for a year, immersion, all that stuff. Came back. Now what do I do with this language? How can I use it? And so uni said, become a Spanish teacher. And I said, okay, yeah, but what else is there? So a bit like you, which we just discovered before, I found myself as a local staff member working for foreign government in Australia. The Uruguayan ambassador said, hey, if you want to come to Canberra, unpaid internship, can't promise you anything, but at least you can use your Spanish. And I said, gracias, embajador. Ahí voy. Like, when do you want me? So I just drove down on this verbal agreement, which doesn't fly these days. This is 15 years ago. And started off on the most incredible adventure in this world of international relations and diplomacy and just thinking on your feet and being scrappy and doing the job that needed to get done in order to sort of meet the objective. And so from those local roles, I eventually realized that every time you do those, there's a ceiling there, because I'm not a representative of Uruguay or Chile or Cuba or Ecuador or whatever group I was working for. I had to go work for my own government. And so I made the change, came into Austrade. It's the Australian Trade and Investment Commission. Again, commercially focused, not a traditional diplomacy pathway. I was the only one that had fluent Spanish. So off I was. We need someone in Colombia, Gab goes. We need someone in Mexico, Gab goes. Chile as a trade commissioner, and now being appointed to Houston. So my first full 3-year posting in the USA. It's incredible. Oh, thank you. But every day I wake up, feel so privileged to do this job. But it's the happiest accident ever, right? Because it's the result of following and pursuing that intersection of where your passion is and your talent is, and where your interest is and your sort of natural skills. So it's been amazing. I've done some other postgraduate studies to sort of, really firm up on my IR kind of skills. But I'm not of the background of Livia or Anna. Like, they are the true legit diplomats here, right? And I come from a different side, but I've learned also to understand my value in what I bring and the strengths that I bring, and also be really proud of that too. Because as Anna said before, this job requires you to literally do all the jobs on any given day. And I think just being a practical person that can be scrappy and get things done is exactly what it is. So the most unconventional pathway. But if like Gab at high school would have loved to have attended your session to know that this was actually a pathway, and maybe I could have got here faster. But it's not about speed really, because for me, my career, it's a playground that I'm playing on and not a ladder that I'm climbing. So it's been a fun playground, jungle gym, I think they call here. Yeah, it's been a really fun jungle gym. Yeah.
What a great analogy. Thank you. Yes. So even from across the Pacific, Australia plays a role in global affairs that's hard to ignore. In what ways is Australia making its presence felt on the global stage?
Another beautiful question, which I've sort of alluded to, I think, before in my other answers. Also, can we just take a moment? So we've got Anna talking about national security and like anti-proliferation NATO. We've got Livia talking about global conflict and terrorism. Here I'm talking about the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders. Like, so, yeah, no, I think, so Australia, I mean, what I'd love to comment on is, so Australia, I mean, it's a big island floating in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, right? And our population is less than the Texas Triangle. So we, like Sweden and like Israel, are natural globally orientated. We're a natural globally orientated country. And I think what we do as Australia is we try to use the soft connections to build the relationships that are going to add the economic benefit that we need to see. And so whether it's on critical minerals or defense relationships or energy security or you name it, I think you will find Australia trying to connect with people overseas through sport, through film, through culture, these cultural references, and leverage our likability to make you want to do business with us. One thing we tell the US a lot at the moment, and one thing that Australia brings to the table globally, is we have the fourth largest reserves of pension funds in the world. I think it's like $3.7 trillion. And it can't all be invested in Australia. It has to go offshore. And so we put our money, yeah, great. Yeah. So we put our money where our mouth is in terms of what we can bring to the table, and we punch well above our weight in that sense. And so I think that's what we bring, is a sense of likability, but we have the financial commercial backing to be able to get things done and be your trusted partner on anything you want to do.
I guess I'll pose the same question to Livia and Anna. In what ways are your countries making their presence felt on the global stage? Livia?
Have you watched CNN lately?
Outside of that.
Yeah, no, but you know that's the big story. A lot of our work is bringing, I mentioned storytelling, bringing Israel beyond the conflict. Everybody knows about the conflict. That's the easy part, but bringing Israel that is beyond the conflict, bringing the innovation we have, and Israel is pretty famous for it. Our nickname is the Startup Nation. So talking about the innovation, talking about, so this is a uniqueness as well, young country, ancient nation. So we're the land of an ancient people. That goes to history, archaeology, tons of assets that are very interesting, and we offer the world as well. So beyond security, that is the obvious. I think everybody understands that, and we are at the forefront. It connects to what I said before about terrorism, because if, God forbid, they would succeed there, they'll be knocking on your doors, your doors in a second, because it's a global phenomenon. So definitely the security aspect of things is one of them. Innovation we're world leaders in innovation. Necessity is the mother of all inventions, right? My joke, I always tell the joke that we talk about the promised land, and Moses walked the desert for 40 years only to find the only place in the Middle East that has no oil, no water, no natural resources. except the human resource. And we just didn't have any option but invent and create. It's not that accurate because more than 10 years ago, we discovered natural gas. That is a huge success story. So I'm happy to let go of my joke and have the natural gas. It's a great deal. But these are some of the things I think we can offer the world. Yeah.
And Anna, Sweden.
I mean, I've already mentioned a few things. Second most innovative country in the world. Big companies, you know, you have the Ericssons and the IKEAs and Spotify. Sweden is also now, we used to be the third largest music exporter in the world, 10.5 million people. South Korea just beat us and we're number 4. But the good thing is, half of all the K-pop songs are written by Swedes. And I mean, yeah, that's pretty amazing. Yeah, I bet you didn't know that. So, I mean, acts like Taylor Swift, Kelly Clarkson, Justin Timberlake, you know, the songs are written and produced by Swedes. So quite creative, and it's a big export sector for us. But, you know, I think what we are famous for, in addition to the Nobel Prize and, you know, ABBA and the Volvo and so on, is probably quality of life. You know, we have a universal healthcare system. Schooling is free. You know, we have a good quality of life. We are very equal. And so if you're looking for a place where you can have equal opportunity and a good life and enjoy good nature, nice nature, you know, listen to good music, eat a few meatballs, you could come to Sweden.
Make a side table.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm going to take a few questions from the audience, and Leo will bring me just a few more in just a second. The question one, anyone can answer it. How does business in Texas affect or impact your country? Is there anything Texans should know? How does business in Texas affect or impact your country? Is there anything Texans should know?
Maybe, can I kick off? So I think there's a few ways to answer this, so I'm just going to have a go. What I love to tell my colleagues back in Australia is, y'all, have you seen what they're doing in Texas? They're doing it faster. They're doing it bigger. And actually, they did it yesterday. And you guys are still doing your analysis, doing the review of the analysis, thinking about the thing, and then maybe you'll make a recommendation to someone to do a thing. And like, come on, like put the shovel in the ground, make it happen. And so I think what Australia's learning from Texas is to make things happen, to be ambitious, and to just move forward in terms of the momentum of the pace of the way business happens and the way deals are done. Australian businesses will often come to the market and remark to me that the level of access that they get and the level of so the access, the intention to do something, the pace at which the thing then progresses is lightning speed compared to the way we do it back home. So we have a lot to learn from Texas in the way business is done, for sure.
Anyone else?
Texas should know about Sweden. I mean, lots. And that's why we have a consulate general here now. That's the whole idea of kind of promoting relations between Texas and Sweden. And I mean, the one message is that Sweden, yes, it might be far away, but we're close in the way that we do business, the way that we can work together. So open for business, investments, you know, academic exchanges, travel, study, and so on. But if you want to know more, you can always check out our digital channels and our social media accounts. There's lots to experience there about Sweden. But jokes aside, I mean, like Gabrielle said, there's so much that Sweden can learn from Texas. And that's also part of our mission here, to explain back home, why should Swedish businesses come to Texas? Why should they pitch their ideas here in Texas? So it really goes both ways. So we'll have a lot of work to do, but it's going to be fun, y'all.
I definitely agree that it's a two-way street. I also agree that although we represent, or at least in my case, we represent our country here, nonetheless, we do the same thing back home. We explain, we try to explain. You know, my colleagues who serve in New York, they don't have to explain what New York is and why should Israeli companies be present there, because, you know, it's New York. Texas, however, is a very well-kept secret. At least it was until recent years. And I'm super happy to discover and to see that Israelis are discovering Texas every day. Every day, Austin is bursting. The high-tech scene in Austin is bursting with Israeli entrepreneurs that come to set shop there, and they're super successful. I think the cultural vibe of doing business is quite similar in Israel and in Texas, talking about speed. The informality of things, very, you know, a sense of directness. In our case, it's a bit rude, but the Texans are not. So we take it a bit too far. And as we like to say, if Israel is the startup nation, Texas is the scale-up state. So whatever we get to do, because the one thing we don't have is the scale. You know, we're small, so the brains are there, the technology is there, but the scale is here. So we get to bring all those great, smart things to Texas. Yeah.
And just jumping back to more topical things, do you want to comment, Livia, on a two-state nation?
No.
Okay.
No, I mean, no, but I'm sorry. I have to. I think the most genuine thing I can say about it right now, that it is just not relevant at the moment. It's not feasible and not relevant at the moment. You know, during past years, we've worked very hard in getting to a situation in which the reality would allow such a solution and would allow Israel to live in its secured borders, as well as the Palestinian people to have their national aspirations fulfilled. And we failed again and again and again. I'm not sure there's a real, honest partner on the other side. There's a big question on who is the partner, who is on the other side. Who would that be? Hamas? Of course not. So Palestinian Authority, what's happening there? So for all of those reasons, I have to say it might be a noble idea. And I do believe eventually we will have to have some sort of political arrangement. Not everything can be achieved with arms, and it shouldn't, okay? That's very clear. If that day is tomorrow, unfortunately, probably not. So.
And Anna, because you mentioned it, question from the audience, will Trump ever receive a Nobel Prize?
So, a few things about the Nobel Prize.
Yes.
Yes. This could also turn into a lecture, but I'll be quick. You know, Alfred Nobel, when he died and decided to donate all his funds towards the prize, Norway was part of the Swedish Empire. No, we had a union state, Sweden and Norway. So the Peace Prize, when Norway and Sweden amicably split up in 1905, the Peace Prize was awarded to Norway. So it's the Norwegian Peace Prize Committee that decides. So it's Norwegian, not Swedish, And it's a committee, meaning it has nothing to do with the Swedish government. So that's all I'm going to say about Trump and the Peace Prize.
Okay, so I asked the question. Okay, we're going to give you a little lighter question. The next one is some of the strengths of women's diplomats. Their relationship building, multitasking, motherhood. You've mentioned all those are products of how girls are socialized. How should we continue nurturing these skills while breaking down barriers and gender inequality? Yeah, it's a good
Wow,
question.
what an amazing question.
See?
I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this justice.
Good question.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'll break it down. Okay, I might just comment on a personal story and then connect it to an idea, which is, so I grew up, Dad was a footy coach, right? So I grew up with Dad on the footy pitch, playing all the sports.
The footy pitch is
like the rugby field. Playing all the sports, having a go at everything. Dad always said, I don't care what sport you play as long as it's a team sport, and as long as you always do a PB. So a PB, a personal best. And in order to do the personal best, you must be prepared. You can't just get there and wing it. Like, you have to practice and think about it so you can turn up and do your best on the day in whatever thing you choose to do. And so I think, and it wasn't that I was a girl playing rugby, wasn't that I was a girl in a leotard doing gymnastics, which is not a team sport, even though I told Dad it was. Rhythmic gymnastics, where you throw the things to each other, it's clearly a team sport. But I think just the empowerment of these messages of give it a try, do your best, prepare to do your best. And if you fail, you learn. Failure is okay. And I guess just those general principles for women and girls and boys and men, actually, if there's a way that we can make them mandated across everything, I think that for me, those are just, you grow up believing that anything is possible, right? Maybe it's a very unsatisfactory answer, but it's one that kind of resonates with me and maybe why I've stumbled into a career and the art of the possible just through trying really hard, doing my best, building good relationships and giving it a go and failing and learning. And that's it.
Yeah, excellent answer. Final question. As representatives of your respective countries, what insight would you share with us today that would help strengthen global collaboration and make our city an even more connected hub for diplomacy and international engagement?
I would say, and again, this is not an average room, you all know it. Houston is very fortunate to be such a global city. We have over 90 countries represented here, the fourth largest consular corps in the States. That's an asset. That's a huge asset. Use us, engage, see what's going on in the different consulates, what programs do they offer, reach out. So I think that's a resource that is unique to Houston. It can't be found in any other city, and it's worthwhile taking advantage of it. On a personal note, because we're talking today about women diplomats or women in general, I would say it's also our responsibility to make sure when we get to the decision makers table, when we sit at the table, to make sure we bring another woman on board. It's our journey does not finish once we're there. Okay, we're there. We're all three of us are heads of mission. That's a great position. But what do we do to uplift other women inside our organization or outside? It doesn't really matter. I feel we have this responsibility to our sisters, and I also recommend every young woman to create her own sisterhood. I always had my best friends were always men. I don't know why. And it came to me, this understanding came later in life. I understood the power, and I still think men are great. I'm married to a lovely one, you know, that's excellent. But the kind of bond and sisterhood you can have with women is just different. It's just different. It's unique and deep. So I really encourage every young woman to lean into her sisters and to create this network of sisterhood around her.
Anna?
I'm not going to answer your question. Rather, I'm going to connect to what Livia just said, because I find it important, especially at this format where we were talking about women shaping global dialogue. And any type of dialogue starts small, you know? And so like you said, I think it's our responsibility as women leaders, because whether we like it or not, that's what we are when we're heads of mission, to encourage other women to, you know, go work for their passions, you know, find different avenues. If they want to go into diplomacy, you know, give them advice, help them out, talk to them about this career. It's not always an easy one, but it's a fun one. And I think also, you know, to live as we learn and to remember that we are role models. And in that vein, also talk about some of the challenges of this job, because it's not just a job, it's a lifestyle. And it includes some sacrifices from your partners and from your families. But the reward is such that it's really worthwhile doing. But also remember that even though if it's a lifestyle, it's a job, and you need to have something fulfilling. You know, when you leave your office in the evening, you also need to have a fulfilling, you know, private life. You need to have some fun and not just think about work. And to connect to what Livia said again, finding your network. I agree, women should be working much more together and should be better at sort of lifting each other. But it's important when you're in this job that we are in, far away from home, to find friends. You know, everyone needs a friend. You need someone you can vent with, someone you can, you know, talk to about the daily struggles in your workplace. So, you know, it's the small things, it's the big things, but you need everything to come together in order to have a functioning career and a fun and rewarding life, I guess. Sorry, that's didn't answer the question at all, but that's what you get.
It's good insight. And Gabrielle.
I can't beat that. I just echo what both of you said. And I mean, I look up to Anna and Livia a lot. So, you know, thank you to World Affairs Council for creating this opportunity for this conversation, because the more we talk about it, the more we connect, the more we shed light on the mysteries of diplomacy, which is obviously, from what you've heard today, not as mysterious, perhaps, as what it looks like from the outside. We're all people, and we're all living, and we're all sharing sort of a moment, a lunch, a meal, a conversation. So thank you for convening this and for your leadership, and you guys are awesome. I'll be your friend. Okay, thank you.
So please join me in thanking our Consul General. Thank you.